talk a little bit about accreditation. And so you've got the switch on this. So Chris and I are going to do this portion, but what I want to talk about is actually the accreditation mechanics. And so what's happening in the background? And I know a few of us in the room have been on an accreditation visit. Trustee Wright just finished one, so he knows he's going to be correcting me as I go through this. I've chaired 11 visits, and I think we have Dennis back there was on one. Has anybody else? I think Vita's been on one, Linda's been on one. Okay, Kathleen has been on one. Okay, that is absolutely wonderful, and I applaud each and every one of you, but there's a little problem. And that is, all of you should have raised your hands. There's an opportunity for each and every one of you to be on an accreditation team. And that is truly, and I'm sure Trustee Wright will agree, that is truly the only way to really get a feel for what accreditation is all about. To get a feel for what we need to do as an institution to be successful. And that's how you learn that. So what we're doing is we're kind of doing the checkbox, we're getting answers to the questions, frankly, we're doing what most community colleges do. But if we ever want to be at top rung, top shelf, I encourage each and every one of you to take the opportunity to find your way onto a team. So let's see what they're going to be up to before they get here, when they're here, and then after they leave. Okay. So the very first thing that happens in this process, as teams are being assembled by the ACCJC, they're being assembled off of a pool, as each and every one of you have put your name into that pool. They'll look at what your background and experience is and what standards you might be able to fit on. Then they'll give you a call and say, would you like to be on this team or that team? At the same time, they have chosen a chair, and they'll call someone to be that chair. And so right after our visit, I'm going to be chairing San Diego Miramar. So I'm not only kind of getting our process done, but starting a process for somebody else. So in this, for each chair, even though you've done it 11 times, you'll do it a 12th time. And that is have a very concentrated training with 2 or 3 trainers, and yet only 5 to 6 chairs in the room. So you can imagine it's very intense, it's very thorough, and there's a lot of data that needs to be reviewed. There's always changes in policy, and the chair has to know what those are so that they can pass that on to each of the team members. We also have heads-up information as if there is a particular issue at an institution. It might be that they have an OPEB problem. They are not meeting some of the eligibility requirements, or maybe they have an issue with not being able to keep a chancellor in place, or the turnover is one chancellor a year kind of thing. I've seen that before. And any particular issues that the college may have that gets informed to the ACCJC. Also, you get a chance to learn who your team members are going to be. And unfortunately, it's never a complete list during this first phase. You'll get about, if you're lucky, about 2/3 of your members at that point, and there'll be others that will come along. It turns out the CBO, David, is the hardest position to fill on a team for whatever reason, I'm not sure. And then finally, making contact, learning to make contact with the college, who the president is, and what are the team members for that. There is a pre-visit that will take place, and guess what? The one here is scheduled already. And so what happens in that pre-visit, the chair comes, and usually the team assistant will come and visit the college, learn about transportation issues. How do I get from the hotel to the college? How do I get from my home to the college, and what route that will take? So if you're at Feather River up in the Sierra Nevada, that can be challenging. But if you're one of the LA colleges, maybe not so much. What kind of lodging will you have? They tend to put teams in the least expensive places they can, and still keep them healthy. They want to know what the team room looks like. And so what is their space going to be? Will it be secure? They want to know about keys for all the team members. They want to know about the electronics that will be available to them. They also want to know how are they going to get into your distance ed programs? How are they going to look at your CTE? So the reason for that is that there are specific policies, as I mentioned earlier, policies, not standards, but policies that fall within CTE and also distance education. And then begin to look for contacts at the campus. Of course, get to meet the ALO, meet people that were responsible for writing or editing or self-evaluation, just kind of getting a feel who are the key players that they're going to be working with, and then determine any off-site locations. And so you don't have to be a center, but any off-site location that offers more than 50% of the program has to be independently reviewed. And so you have to know where that is, how to get there, and kind of the nature of what's being offered there. Okay. That reminds me of a couple of years ago. There's a phone call came into Eddie, and Eddie had left his phone up here. So I picked it up, and it said it was from Mom. So I answered the phone, and I had a great conversation. Kind of embarrassing anyway. Okay, back to the work here. So in terms of team preparation, so visits taking place, and now it's time to touch base with the team and get them engaged. At this time, they probably do not have the self-evaluation to work with. It's my job or the chair's job to look at the team, to give them exercises that will help me understand how well they write. And so very early on, they are already working on the accreditation visit, and I need to know how well they write so that I can put them in the right sections. Also to be able to see, are they better on Standard 4? And usually there's up to 2 presidents on every visiting team. They're going to be on Standard 4. There'll be student services folks and so on and so forth that will place in Standard 1 or 2 or 3, depending. Then to review with the team what the report template looks like. It's fairly prescriptive the way that works. They want to see the standards. They want to see a certain way that the answers are there. And by the way, our self-study, our self-evaluation makes up that report, basically. And so as long as we're meeting that standard, generally things are just extracted because they've proven that what we've said is true and accurate. And so they put that in and say, yes, they meet the standard and here's how they do it. And that's usually what we have written. Okay, then the entire team will get together. And for me, that will be, well, for our team, it's coming up pretty quick. I think it's like a week away on Monday at the LA airport. And so there the whole team comes together and you go through a training with the ACCJC staff and looking at, you actually practice writing recommendations. So they give you scenarios. You work with those. You learn how to write a proper recommendation. And there are 2 kinds of recommendations. There are those that say, you know, you've got to meet the standard and you're not. Another one's a recommendation for improvement. And those we'll take. Those are good to have. You don't want to have the one that says you need to start meeting the standard. That's not good. Practice how to look for the evidence and what should it look like. What's going to satisfy that requirement in terms of the evidence that you need to have. And again, the policy, process, and protocol. So that the entire team knows exactly what they need to be doing in terms of those three individual areas. Then once the self-evaluation report arrives in their mailbox, then they have their assignment for their standards and substandards. They are to start going through that to do 2 things. One, to look at the self-evaluation and evaluate it. Is it put together in a way that's helpful to us? Is it easy to get through? Do the links work? Can I find the evidence quickly? Have they avoided telling us everything, how the kitchen sink works? But have they stuck to the standard and given us exactly what we need to have. And that will end up in the report. But then also to begin looking at the evidence supports what they say about the standard. So the writing begins way ahead. Okay, so what the objective that they have is, we've written our report, and it's an honest report. We need to validate, the team needs to validate our evidence. So does the evidence back up what we're telling them? That's extremely important. Then the team needs to fill in any of the gaps. And so if there's something that we've missed or something that we're not doing, then they will tend to auger in on those things. There'll be a deployment team that will look specifically at what those things are. And then to actually finalize the report. If you have a very good chair, and we have a very good chair here, Sonia Christian is going to come, that report will be written before they get here. And so their whole job is to go through and refine when they're here, talk to us, to validate, to confirm that what they think is true actually is. On day one, and what happens each day, this is all going to be generally correct, but the chair has the opportunity to flip things around a little bit. But the first day will be entirely at the hotel, usually. Now, I tend to do it a little bit different. They're going to see a campus tour on the second day. I try to do mine at the end of the first day. And the reason for that is I want to concentrate on visiting folks at the campus. The tour is really not to look at the college per se, to say, well, gee, that's a nice building. It's really to see, okay, I need to know where the admin building is so I can talk to the president in the morning, or I need to know where the academic senate office is so I can meet them. So it's really more of a logistics tour. And then it did identify any of the issues that were discovered in the report, find and talk those over, who's going to be deployed to check those things out to make sure that they're good, or to begin a recommendation if they're not. Talk about setting up a meeting schedule with all of us. So they're going to meet with constituent groups, they're going to meet with academic senate, classified senate, any of our planning committees. It's their choice. And a lot of that is based on what we're given. And so it's driven completely by what's in that report. And then discuss what the expectations are for the visit. And so this is where the chair comes in and says, you've got to get your writing done. You're not leaving until it's done. And so we're going to cut time out every single day that you can sit down and begin to finalize that report. Because if it's not done, guess who gets to finish it? The chair. So you want to get that done earlier. And then plan out how the week is going to go. Then the second day, as I mentioned here, this is just the ACCJC recommendation, is to conduct a tour in the morning and then begin to deploy the team members to have their interviews and to begin to validate evidence there. So that's when we're really going to start to see the team out in the field. They'll be identified, they'll have badges, they'll want to talk to you if they run into you. They may have very specific questions because they have a very specific assignment that they're working on. And so they're looking for information. Then to come back, take any new information that was gleaned from those interviews, add it to the report if needed, have regular team meetings where we get checkups. Where are we? What are the pitfalls? Are there any issues that are slowing us down? Is there anybody things that are not working well? We're not able to find this person. We really need to talk to them, those kinds of things. And perhaps have the very first open forum. And so this is an opportunity where usually not the entire team, but a certain number of the team members will come and just open it up for questions, comments, anything basically that anyone wants to talk about. Then on day 3, right off the bat, we get people out and into their meetings, get them working on that. Again, refine the report on any information that was gleaned that you didn't have already, regular team meetings. And then there's a very important team dinner. And the purpose of this is to decompress. Because anybody here that's been on a team knows that this is absolutely intense. I can't say that I've been involved in any other community college activity that is as intense as a visit is. You've got a great responsibility, there's a lot to do, and you have to do it right. And so it's a working meeting, it's a working dinner, but you really kind of decompress and talk over where we are and where we need to go to finish off. So that happens then. And then let me mention just quickly on visiting classes. Visiting a lot of classes is discouraged. Okay, one of the main reasons is it's a bit disruptive. But they know the good work is going on in the class. There may be just one or two members that will pop in and just for a few minutes just to see the lay of the land, how the instructional setting is set up, how the students are interacting, and that kind of thing. But don't expect a whole lot of that happening. There will be some, no doubt about that. And so this is an opportunity to visit the evening classes. Okay, so on the fourth day, there's a little bit that has changed here. This used to be an extremely busy day, and it's now a little bit easier. And the reason is part of this is, yes, you're finalizing the report. Mainly, you're deciding on what recommendations you're going to put forth to the institutions and commendations. We can't forget those. They're going to be there as well. So you have to reach consensus on what those are going to be. You review how they're worded and go forward. There was a time that you actually would sign a sheet that had a recommendation for the accreditation status. And so whether you're recommending a visit in 6 months or whether you're recommending a warning or probation, the team had to do that. And so it's excruciating work, and it was a very hard portion of this whole thing. That no longer exists. So all we do now is we sign that, yes, I was a team member and I participated appropriately. And so now the other part is entirely up to the 25 some odd member commission. And let me mention the commission is us. They're not hired guns. They are presidents and faculty and community members because we have a peer review process. And then usually at 1 o'clock or 1:30, there'll be an exit interview. And just know that this is a very pragmatic event. You'll receive information on generally how they felt the visit went. You'll also get kind of a broad overview of recommendations and commendations. They cannot be read verbatim. And the main reason is that they're not the final commendations and recommendations. Only the commission can do that. And so these are going forward to the commission as a recommendation for them to consider, but only they can formalize it. So you don't want to you won't hear them read out very specifically, but they might mention general areas for improvement, general areas in which we've not met a standard, or general areas for accommodation at that time. And then finally, they're not being rude at the end of that exit report. They are getting out of Dodge, and they get out really quickly. That's part of the process, is they don't want to linger because you don't want to have any perception of lobbying or enticing or affecting anything in this process by hanging out afterwards. So you'll almost feel the breeze in the room as they get up and rush out to their cars. In fact, our team has requested boxed lunches. So they will, as they're running out the door, they're going to get their boxed lunch, they'll hop in their car and get there. So those are the things that are happening. Again, know that the teams are extremely focused, they're extremely busy, they're extremely stressed. They have very specific things that they need to get done, and they're really under a lot of pressure to get it done correctly. So if they don't hang out with you very long, there's a reason for that. They're not cutting you off or being rude in any way. They just have a set of things that they need to accomplish. So with that, let me bring up Chris McDonald, who's going to talk a little bit more about our process and our report. Chris.
Good morning. In a bit, I'll take you for a virtual walk along what I'm calling accreditation way outside PAC. But before I do that, I want to hold this up so everyone can see. We have a completed self-evaluation report for which everyone at the college can be proud. And while there are about 71 individuals to thank, it wouldn't be right for me to not thank the folks who are doing a considerable amount of work behind the scenes. So can I have Alan come out, please? And Alan in the Office of Instruction has done a phenomenal job. I can't see because of the lights. Is Maria here in Student Services? Maria? Thank you, Maria, as well. And Stephanie from Academic Senate, where's Steph? Thank you. These individuals have done a tremendous amount of work for the actual production of the self-evaluation report. So Dr. Rockmore covered what you should expect. What I'm here to do today is roll out our education campaign. One shouldn't feel nervous about the accreditation visit. In fact, most of you already know a significant amount of what you should know. We just need to remind ourselves. So let's begin our virtual tour. Primary objectives. We'll increase campus awareness. We intend to increase campus education. I'll identify accreditation resources, some of which you already have in your hands. And we'll solicit inputs. We've got mics, and I'll ask for volunteers a couple times throughout the presentation. But most of all, we want to have some fun. And as a person trained in mathematics and a mathematics professor, I have to force myself at times to have fun. So bear with me as I expose you to my sense of humor. So we're about to eavesdrop on a conversation in an office here at IVC.
John, I hear you might be taking the retirement incentive.
Oh yes, Jenny. But before I leave, I'm going to help Dr. Rockmore with accreditation.
Hold on, John. What can you do to help with accreditation? You are not a real person. You are an animated character.
Well, Jenny, I am going to help with the Flex Week presentation. And so are you.
Why do we need to talk about accreditation?
Well, Jenny, we need to get IVC ready for the site visit.
I thought we were finished after we mailed the report.
Not quite. We need everyone to understand basic IVC governance processes and procedures.
That sounds like a lot of work. Will I need to memorize a lot of data?
Not at all. Just the basics in the site visit guide, and the FAQ will suffice. You probably know a lot of that information already.
Now I feel kind of nervous about this site visit.
There's no need to worry. It will be fun.
Now, there's actually something really interesting. If you go to the ACCJC website and you look at their glossary of terms, they don't actually define accreditation. I found that rather interesting. So you'll find it defined many different ways. But as a general rule, we are looking at ourselves. It's self-reflection that we document, and an external team will stop in and verify that what we say about ourselves is actually true. So, to demystify the standards and what they are, and again, various folks interpret how the standards should be addressed in different ways. But I like to think of the standards in three particular ways. So we have conditions. Does it exist? So as you read the standard, do you have a particular item? Do you have a particular thing in place? Those are pretty easy. It's where we get into the process and the practice that we sometimes have some difficulty with how we respond. So if we're talking about the process, generally in our response, we would talk about how we got there and then we would get into the documentation. With regards to practice, what we actually do, at times that's up for a little bit of interpretation. But the collective did a very good job through the editing sessions of making sure that what we claim we actually do is correct. Now, for the accreditation standards, if you would, I believe everyone has a copy of the site visit guide. And most of what you'll need to know is actually in the site visit guide. So if you would turn to page 7. So what we have on page 7 is the standards and the major substandards. And what I would like for you to do, when you have a spare moment, look at the standards and substandards based on your level of interest, based on your job responsibilities. Find areas where you think you might be interested or areas where you think you would be able to offer help if we needed help through our third-party comment forum that I'll talk about in a bit. But everything here is actually in the document, which you can find electronically. What I'd like you to do, though, at a minimum, review the mission. I think that's quite important. Also, it's very important that everyone understands our governance processes. So, standard 4A, I believe everyone should look at. Then, for example, if you're in student services, you may want to look at standard 2C. If you're involved with the IT department, you may want to review again what's in standard 3C. Additionally, something new are quality focus essays, QFEs. I would really encourage the entire campus community to read through the QFEs. You have a summary of the QFEs in the site visit guide, but I think it's a good read, and it's only 5,000 words, it's not that bad. So let's think of myth versus facts. So colleges must colleges must document part-time faculty members' involvement in the accreditation process. So would that be a myth or is that a fact? And anyone can just call out. Is that a myth or is that a fact? Yeah, it's a fact. How we primarily document part-time faculty members' involvement is through the student learning outcome work. So if part-time faculty members have their SLOs on their syllabi, that's one way that we can document that part-time faculty members are involved. We can also document through committee meetings, minutes, that part-time faculty members are attending department meetings, let's say, or governance committees. Okay, myth versus fact. All statements shared with the site visit team members must be included in the site visit team report. Is that a myth or is that a fact? Yeah, it's a myth. If a statement is shared to a site visit team member, it has to be corroborated with multiple sources. So not all statements will actually end up in the final report. Myth versus fact. Site visitors have the authority to revoke IVC's accreditation. Yeah, that's a myth. The site visitors will write a report, and then that report will be sent to the commission. So myth versus fact. The college should organize evening activities for the site visitors while they're in town. Yeah, that's a myth. We're not allowed to organize social events to try to get them to, be more favorable to us. It would be nice if we could, but we can't. Myth versus fact. SOCCD has a function map that delineates responsibilities between district services and the colleges. Yeah, that's a fact. Our function map, we link to it in the document, and we have printed copies that we keep in the Office of Instruction. It's also on the district SharePoint website. Right, a few basic questions. Now, as we look at these questions, what I want you to do is just think about, are you in a position to respond? Right? So the goal right now is not to give you the answer, it's just, are you in a position to respond? So, can you describe the participatory governance process at IDC? As a member of the campus community, the hope is that by the time we have the visit, you can. So, don't worry if you can't at the moment. Can you describe the budget development process? Can you describe the district resource allocation process? Let's check, show of hands. How many of you believe you can describe the district resource allocation process? Okay. So, as you can see, there's a fair amount of education. It looks like we had possibly 60% of you that believe you can do that. So, we will continue to roll out the education campaign so that folks can answer these questions. Can you describe the student complaint process at IDC? That's an important one. Just curious how many can do that. Okay. A little better, but there's still room for improvement. Right, so some basic questions that the education campaign will address. So, what are eligibility requirements and how are they addressed? Now, many of you are on page 7 and followed along with me. Does anyone know how many eligibility requirements there are? Just curious. 21. Yeah, there's 21 of them. So, what are institution set standards and how are they established? Just curious, in your site visit guide, anyone know what page number institution set standards are talked about? In the guide, I'll pause for a second. So I heard a rumor it's 24. Is it confirmed or is that still a rumor? Yeah, page 24. So what you'll find is the guide addresses all the basic questions that you would need to answer, and then we will go around to your individual departments or schools, and we will provide additional specific information. So is everyone starting to see the value of the guide? You can see some nods? Everyone okay? All right, so a lot of the basic information actually is in the guide. So I need a volunteer to grab one of those mics. What are the implications of not being accredited? I actually need a volunteer to grab the mic on either side. What are the implications? So, do I need to pick someone or am I going to get a volunteer? Oh, we have a volunteer. Awesome. So I can't see well, so just tell us who you are.
What?
I'm not sure your mic's on. Maybe I created problems because I impromptu called someone up to the mic. Yeah. All right. Yeah, okay. If not, we'll ask you to use your teacher voice or your band voice. Okay. Hey, there you go. Yeah. All right. So, what are the implications of not being accredited?
Mass Armageddon. But seriously, though, our students don't get federal money to help pay for school.
Wonderful.
And even if they did come here and took classes, that would be not nearly as useful as they would if we were accredited, because they could transfer them if we were accredited.
Excellent. Thank you. Excellent. Can you get a round of applause?
It's in the tag, thank you.
All right. So, what are the QFEs and what are the IDC QFE topics? So, in your site visit guide, if you would, please find the page where we have quality focus essays. All right, so you're learning to use the guide as we go through the presentation. So Dr. Wright, say again? Page 13. Now, in the past, colleges were asked to do what are called plan and agendas. So in each standard, for each of the substandards, you would develop an action plan of sorts if you felt that you had deficiencies. The main issue with that is colleges would end up with, at times, in excess of 36 plan and agendas. It's very difficult to manage that many activities under the accreditation process. So what the commission has decided is that college would identify 3 institution-level objectives related to student learning and student outcomes that the college will focus on through the accreditation cycle, and will provide an update during the midterm report. So at IBC, through the shared governance process, we decided to do 3 quality focus essay topics. The first is disaggregated student learning outcomes. Now, we have disaggregated student achievement data for a long time, right? Success and retention rates are disaggregated. But with the student learning outcomes, what we found was it's very difficult. The English department actually has done a fair amount of work there. And when I say it's very difficult to disaggregate student learning outcomes, if you think of program level, the English department has courses that are newly developed that accelerate the basic skills sequence. So at the course level, you can look at disaggregation basically with students in the accelerated course versus students in the traditional course. And you can assess the learning outcomes, and that's a level of disaggregation. Another example that could be done at the institution/program level for distance education. If you offer distance education courses with parallel classes being done face-to-face, then you can disaggregate the learning outcomes in the distance education versus the face-to-face course. I mentioned the word difficult earlier. What's difficult is getting the mechanics in place to disaggregate at the student level. That takes a considerable amount of energy and effort. So our intent is to do disaggregation at the program and course level, and over time, get the mechanics in place, we need a little bit of technology, to disaggregate at the student level. Now, our second quality focused essay topic, online education. Online education has seen a boom here at IBC, actually throughout the state. But we all recognize that there's an achievement gap. And while saying that, I'll mention up front that the achievement gap here at IBC has been narrowing. So students taking online classes, there's almost parity in terms of our comparison to the state comparison. Our achievement gap is narrowing. There's still a gap, and we intend to work on that gap. So that's why our second quality focused essay topic is online education. The third is our resource request process. And let me tie that back to student learning and student outcomes. We have a very open and transparent process, and the college should be applauded for that. The complaint periodically that we get is that the process is somewhat slow and cumbersome. So one can imagine that if it takes an extra 3, 4, 5, 6 months possibly to allocate the funds, especially in categorical programs, that you could have an impact on student learning and student outcomes because the resources aren't getting to the folks quickly enough, and I put quickly in quotes, not that we're doing a bad job necessarily. So to avoid the possible impact on students, we're going to take a look at our resource allocation process. Alan's working his magic. All right, so here's the question. So before we play the video, choice A, choice B. What's more challenging, preparing for an accreditation site visit or herding cats? So A, the accreditation site visit? Yeah. Okay, that's where I stand. How many believe herding cats? Do we have any herding cats? Okay, we've got a few. So let's hear what the cowboys actually say.
This man right here is my great-grandfather. He's the first cat herder in our family.
Herding cats. Don't let anybody tell you it's easy.
Anybody can herd cattle. Holding together 10,000 half-wild short hairs, well, that's another thing altogether.
Being a cat herder is probably about the toughest thing I think I've ever done.
I got this one this morning, right here, and if you look at his face, it's just ripped to shreds, you know.
You see the movies, you hear the stories, I'm living a dream. Not everyone can do what we do.
I wouldn't do nothing else.
It ain't an easy job, but when you bring a herd into town and you ain't lost a one of them, ain't a feeling like it in the world.
Now, I still contend it's more difficult to do accreditation. Accreditation resources. We've got the accreditation website. We've got our frequently asked questions, our FAQs as a guide. I'll provide a moment in a second for you to review the FAQs. And we have the self-evaluation report. Collectively, everything you need to know about accreditation is right here. I would argue that for most of you, 85–90% of what you need to know about accreditation is actually in the site visit guide or in the frequently asked questions. So, what should you do to actually prepare? You're going to review the FAQs, and I'll provide an opportunity for that in a second, and I'll have an incentive, so you'll want to review the FAQs in a second. For the accreditation guide, I think it's important that everyone looks at the IBC mission and vision. An important section, and I'll see if my pointer works here, the changes and plans arising from the self-evaluation process. It's good to go back and look at the path that we took to get here. And with the changes and plans section, you'll get a nice overview of what we've done and what we plan to do through this accreditation cycle. We've got our strategic planning goals and objectives. It's important that you just review. Again, the intent is not for you to memorize, it's just for you to acquaint yourself with what we do here at IBC as it relates to accreditation and our governance processes. And of course, take an opportunity to review sections of the self-evaluation report. Depending on the version, I think it's only 367 pages, so it's a quick read. All right, so I will allow now 3 minutes for document review. So I want you to just familiarize yourself with the frequently asked questions, familiarize yourself with the site visit guide, and then some lucky person will get to test their knowledge. So 3 minutes, start now. Oh, can we get lights? All right, so may I have a volunteer to come on up and join us for some fun? Remember, we're having fun today.
Can I bring my cheat sheet?
Sure. All right.
Hey, Corey.
Thank you, Corey. I believe the mic's on. Can you do a test for us? Hello. All right, there we go. So, what we're going to do is we're going to play Who Wants to Be a Millionaire? Now, here are the rules. You can use the audience, this audience, right? So, and collectively, they should know all the answers, and they've reviewed their site visit guide, and they are familiar with their frequently asked questions. All right? You can do a 50-50 where the computer will, do 50-50 for you. You can phone a friend. Or you can use the electronic audience if you don't trust this audience. All right? But my guess is that this audience should be able to help you get through it. All right, Alan, if you would work some magic for me. All right, so Corey, your first question. The IBC accreditation site visit will occur A, February 20th to February 24th. B, February 27th to March 2nd. C, March 6th to March 10th. Or D, March 13th to March 17th.
I say D.
Okay, hold on. See, it's nice. You got...
The captain, or the head person's coming on the 18th, but I thought that our visit was in March. No. Have they moved it up? D is in bold. Fine.
Okay. Final answer? Okay, Corey. IBC became an independent accredited college in A, 1979, B, 1983, C, 1985, D, 1991.
C. Right. Final answer.
Final answer?
Yes.
Okay. Corey, there are blank eligibility requirements. A, 4, B, 11, C, 21, D, 27.
What's your age? What was your age?
C. Final answer.
Okay, which of the following is an IBC quality focused essay topic? A, resource allocation process. B, online education. C, disaggregated SLO data. D, all of the above.
D. D, right?
Final answer? So far you've won 500 imaginary dollars. Would you like to continue, Corey? Okay.
Does anybody, unless there's somebody else that wants to have a stab at it. Otherwise, keep going.
Keep going, okay. Which of the following is not an IBC institutional learning outcome? A, aesthetic awareness. B, global awareness. C, professional etiquette. D, civic responsibility.
A. Right? A. We have to have professional etiquette in our meetings, don't we?
Not
C.
All right. C.
C. Final answer, Corey?
I don't know, you guys.
Yes.
I need another opinion because I think it's
50-50. Call a friend?
Oh, can I call a friend?
Yes, you may.
Who am I going to call?
Oh. Alan, get Corey's friend on the line, please. Right. Your friend thinks the answer is C.
Okay, final answer.
Okay, C. Final answer.
Okay, great.
Okay, faculty, staff, and administrators can find student success data using A, Inform, B, Curricunet, C, Workday, D, MySite.
D. And Inform? Shows you how much I'm in Inform. A.
Okay. Is that your final answer? Yes, it is. All right, thank you. So, blank is the primary repository for student learning outcomes. A, TrackData. B, Workday. C, Curricunet. D, MySite.
A, final answer.
pressure is on. IBC has blank strategic planning committees, not councils, committees.
I don't know. Okay, C, final answer. No. B.
Final answer?
Yes.
Very good. For fall 2015, the unduplicated student head count is approximately, and it's hidden in the guide somewhere. If you're not sure, you might want to ask the electronic audience.
Electronic audience.
Well, the audience told you it was C. I don't know what happened. It just flickered on.
C is my final answer.
C. Okay, Alan, go ahead. I believe that the audience told her it was C. Okay, the ACCJC describes a minimum level of acceptable performance using the term A, key performance indicator, B, institution set standards, C, target, D, basic skills.
B, it's a boy.
Would that be your final answer? Yes. Okay, which of the following is an IBC strategic goal? A, promote student success by enhancing the teaching and learning environment. B, foster an environment characterized by creativity, innovation, and respectful interaction. C, advance economic and workforce development through regional partnerships. Or D, all of the above.
D should be dog.
Final answer?
Yes.
Blank is the chair of the IBC Accreditation Site Visit Team. A, Dr. Glenn Rockmore. B, Dr. Kathy Smidler. C, Dr. Tanya Belize. D, Dr. Sonia Christian.
D is in dogs.
Final answer?
Yes.
Very good. So we only have about 3 questions left, so Corey's doing a wonderful job so far. To prepare for the accreditation site visit, faculty and staff should do the following except review IPED student success and retention information, review changes and plans arising out of the self-evaluation process, review the quality-focused essay action projects, review participatory governance and budget development processes.
A is an apple.
Is that your final answer?
Yes, it is.
Wonderful. At IBC, the blank serves as the accreditation liaison officer. A, the president. B, the vice president for instruction. C, the vice president for student services. D, the director of research planning and accreditation.
Well, my experience has been it's B, but with the accreditation in D, I'm going to go with B.
Okay. Final answer?
Yes.
All right, Corey, the pressure is on. This is your $1 million question. Now, you will need the audience's help. You also have your self-evaluation guide. The IBC mission includes the following words except comprehensive, pathways, access, equity.
I think is it B, you guys?
Alan, please help her with 50-50.
So it's A.
Is that your final answer, Corey?
Yes, it is.
$1 million. Thank you.
Thank you.